In 1959, the United States Army dug a city under the ice of Greenland. Not a bunker, a city. Tunnels stretching for miles, quarters for 200 men, its own nuclear reactor. The world was told one thing: it's a research station. That was a lie. Even Denmark, the country that owns Greenland, wasn't told the truth. The real plan was called Project Iceworm, 600 nuclear missiles hidden under the ice aimed at Moscow. Then the ice began to crush the tunnels. So America walked away and left everything down there. The city, the waste, the secret. It's all still buried. But here's what should stop you cold. The ice that was supposed to hide it forever is melting right now. So when they tell you America wants Greenland for security, understand something. This island has heard that word before. And on this island, the official story has never once been the real one. Most people think this whole Greenland thing started with one president and one strange press conference.
We need Greenland from a national security.
It didn't. America has been reaching for this island for more than 150 years. And the pattern is almost funny once you see it. 1868. The man who just bought Alaska orders a report on buying Greenland next. 1917. The United States buys the Virgin Islands from Denmark, and quietly, as part of the price, agrees to recognize Denmark's claim over Greenland. Even when America wasn't buying the island, it was negotiating around it. Then 1946. And this one almost nobody knows. The US government secretly offered Denmark $100 million in gold for Greenland. Denmark said no. The offer stayed classified for decades. 2019. Trump floats buying it. Denmark calls the idea absurd. Everyone laughs. Except by 2025, nobody's laughing anymore. Because now there's a special envoy whose stated mission is to make Greenland part of the United States, and a president who, when asked directly, refuses to rule out using military force against an ally. 5 generations of American leaders reaching for the same frozen island and denying it each time. But here's the strange part, the part that breaks the whole story open. For most of those years, America didn't actually need to own Greenland, because everything it wanted from the island, it was already getting for free. Look at a globe from the top, and the world changes. The shortest path for a Russian missile heading to America goes right over the Arctic, right past Greenland. The American base there is the early warning eye watching that corridor. In a nuclear exchange, the minutes that base buys could decide everything. There's more. Russian submarines leaving their Arctic ports have to pass through one gap of ocean near Greenland to reach the Atlantic. The internet cables connecting America and Europe, the ones a war would target first, run through these same waters. And the US military satellites over the pole are controlled from exactly 2 ground stations on Earth. One in Alaska and one in Greenland. Lose Greenland and there's no backup. Even the future runs through here. As the ice melts, new shipping routes are opening across the top of the world, and one of them could one day carry more trade than the Suez Canal. Greenland sits at the front door of all of it. So yes, the security story is true. But now, the question that flips this entire video. Since 1951, a treaty has let America build bases in Greenland almost at will. Denmark has never said no. Not once. The security is already free. So why threaten an ally, shake NATO, and risk everything for something you already have? Because access can be taken back. Ownership can't. And access doesn't cover the one thing that's about to make this island priceless. The American government keeps a list of 50 minerals it calls critical, materials the country cannot function without. Greenland is believed to hold 43 of them. Sitting in the south of the island is Tan Breeze, described as the largest untapped rare earth deposit on the planet. There's a uranium field down there ranked among the biggest ever discovered, and government surveys have estimated tens of billions of barrels of oil offshore. But raw numbers aren't the real story. The real story is who controls these materials today. Because rare earths are what make fighter jets fly, phones work, and electric cars run. And right now, China dominates that supply chain, including roughly 85% of the world's processing. Read that again. The weapons America builds to compete with China depend on materials that pass through China. Greenland is the only escape hatch of this size anywhere on Earth. And here's the detail that tells you everything about the people in this story. The melting ice, the thing scientists call a global catastrophe, is, for them, a vault door opening on a timer. Every meter of ice that disappears makes the treasure easier to reach. The worse the planet does, the richer this island gets. But treasure in the ground is worthless without someone to dig it up. And the diggers have already landed, quietly, years ago. And when you see who sent them, you'll understand why nobody important actually cares whether the flag over Greenland ever changes. In 2021, while the world was still laughing about buying Greenland, a small mining company backed by some very large names quietly took a controlling stake in a patch of Greenland's west coast. The company is called Kobold Metals. Its investors include Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, Ray Dalio, some of the richest men alive, funding an AI-powered treasure hunt for the metals that go into batteries, in a place their own scientists compared to one of the richest mining regions in Russia. They weren't alone. A decade ago, there were about 12 sites in Greenland where companies were drilling to see what's down there. Today, there are around 170. And then came the receipts. In 2026, an American company secured effective control of Tanbreez itself, the crown jewel, the biggest untapped rare earth deposit on Earth, after years of quiet share deals. Within weeks, supply agreements were signed to ship Greenland's rare earths to the United States. No invasion, no purchase, no vote. Now step back and look at what actually happened. While presidents and prime ministers spent years arguing about whether America could buy the island, ownership of what's under the island was changing hands anyway. License by license, deal by deal. In paperwork almost nobody reads. You don't need to buy the island if you already own what's buried in it. The purchase debate was the show. The land rush was the business. But a land rush on someone else's territory needs one final ingredient: pressure. And what happened next is something allies are never supposed to do to each other. Now let's talk about the people who actually live there, because this is where the story stops being clever and starts being cruel. 57,000 people. That's it. A population the size of a small town, sitting on one of the biggest treasures on Earth, being squeezed from every side. First came the public pressure. The US Vice President flying to the American base in Greenland to announce, on camera, that Denmark had failed these people. Then came the secret pressure. Danish television reported that at least 3 people connected to Trump's circle had been running quiet influence operations inside Greenland, making friends, building lists of which locals were friendly to America and which weren't. Denmark was furious. It summoned America's top diplomat, and the Danish prime minister had to say a sentence you should never have to say about a friend. You cannot spy on an ally. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The people of Greenland don't fully trust Denmark either, and they have reasons. In the 60s and 70s, Danish doctors fitted thousands of Inuit women and girls with birth control devices, many without their consent, a program Greenland's own leaders have publicly called a genocide. So both of the island's protectors have a record. And now comes the trap. And we'll keep this simple because it's actually very simple. Most Greenlanders want independence. But Denmark sends Greenland about $500 million every year. That's roughly half of the government's entire budget. Here's the catch. Under the current deal, if Greenland starts earning real money from mining, Denmark cuts the subsidy by the same amount. Earn $1, lose $1. Digging for your freedom literally doesn't pay. And if Greenland breaks free and mines anyway, there aren't enough workers. They'd have to bring in so many foreigners that Greenlanders could become a minority in their own homeland. Turn to China for help instead? That guarantees America never, ever lets go. Every door out of the trap pays someone else. And the people who built the trap need you arguing about the wrong question. Everyone is asking the same question. Will America buy Greenland? That was never the real question. Remember how this story began. 1959. The official story was research, while a missile city was carved out under the ice. Today, the official story is security, something America has had for free for 70 years. The cover story changed. The method never did. Because it was never about the ice. It was never even about the flag. It's about who owns, what the ice was hiding. And that's already being decided, quietly, on paper, deal by deal. So here's the truth we'll leave you with. No great power in history has ever protected a treasure this size without eventually taking it. Greenland will be taken. The only question is how, with a flag or with a drilling permit signed in silence while the whole world argues about the flag. And if this is how it works in Greenland, what else is being signed right now while we're all watching the wrong thing?